Hello Dino Peeps! If you have been here before, welcome back, and if this is your first video, hi, I'm Tia. I've spent over 13,000 hours in ARK and I love to test game mechanics or look into the newest news for ARK Survival Evolved or ARK Survival Ascended. My goal is to explain things to you the simplest way possible. A historical event is about to be repeated, the finalization of the lore of the first survivor group in the ARK lore. You may or may not know that the ARK lore is split between two groups, the ones hopping the ARKs to be ready to save the Earth, and the other one that is on the spaceship trying to find a new inhabitable planet. The second is the lore branch that leads from Genesis 1 and 2 to ARK 2. The story of the Earth ends with Extinction, and therefore it is an important release for all ARK fans. The original Extinction was released in November 2018 and was highly anticipated by ARK players, as back then it was set to actually be the final map for the game. In hindsight we know that this wasn't true and a lot more maps were published after that, but with the knowledge we had back then, Extinction was special and it was a sentimental moment. When the map got released, the player base was hyped as an ARK player base can be, considering we're known to be the grumpy negative Nancy's for the most part. Extinction brought Titans, overpowered and then nerfed gachas, Managammer, Velonosaurus, and it brought farmable elements that didn't need a boss fight, gigantic titans that were even tameable, and the most impressive boss fight that ARK had to offer up to this point. But when Extinction then finally came out, the release had issues. The core and original ARK team was not with Wildcard anymore, but was preparing the launch of Atlas, a whole different drama. And Extinction had its problems, and with that many of them. The map suffered from performance issues until the end of support of ARK Survival Evolved. Many exploits in the beginning made the map unplayable in PvE. Extinction was the first map I played on official, and despite playing PvE, we were raided with corrupted creatures 3 times, and then had to rebuild a PvP style base as players kept luring corrupted creatures into the main city. Later on, the map was known and loved by dupers and traders, as the access to free element made it the map where everyone cloned their creatures. Massive bases with 15 to 20 cloners were not a rare sight, basically taking away most space where bases could have been otherwise. Then there was also the problem with open world boss fights. Extinction is basically the Earth, but it has 2 additional ARKs with their own ecosystem landed on it. One is the Desert ARK and the other one is the Snow Planet ARK. In addition to this, there's also a giant hole in the ground that is a crater forest. All 3 locations have a boss spawn within it, which was not known to players beforehand, and we experienced it several times that the boss ultimately spawned in someone's base. All of these things somewhat spoiled the fun for players early on, and despite many patches during the later years, the initial excitement died down and Extinction became the element and cloner and breeder map. Now this month on the 16th, it is the assumed release of the remake of ARK Survival Ascended Extinction, and many new and old missed things are going to be added into the core game. Most additions to the game are gatekept behind the Bob's Tall Tales DLC that most of us probably already own at this point. With the last part of Bob's Tall Tales, the Mad Max vibe is added to the game. With it, the Armadoggo, a wild mixture between an armadillo and a hyena, with a highly customizable saddle, who will be your new unkillable follower or friend, but in every case it will be a very good boy.
No. No, he's sleeping.
Then the Dreadnoughtus, which was voted for in the creature vote many moons ago, and which will help us defeat or tame the Titans, as it is said to be a Titan killer. We will then also get cars, which is funny considering we're renewing and saving the planet and then blasting the exhaust fumes of self-made cars into the atmosphere. I bet Ghost Helena has a solution for this as well. I also hope that the cars have, unlike the tech ATV, some volume controls. If you know, you know. Aside from their use in Extinction, they will also be available on other maps, so expect future people cruising around on every map that was released or will be released. But with all these highly anticipated additions to the game, we can't forget the problems the recent remakes in ARK Survival Ascended had. Especially for the center and for Aberration, the developers came under fire for not putting in the effort the community had expected. Both maps seemed to have been finished in a rush, repeating textures, loss of individual biomes, and what actually made them unique. While the overuse of the brown dirt texture on the island could have been an artistic choice, on the center it seemed to be an act of desperation. The worst thing that could happen to Extinction now would be yet another muddy and dirty brown map that blends the different regions on the map in an indistinguishable mess. I hope that this is simply me overreacting, but I feel like it's worth mentioning as it was the pattern for the last 2 releases. The big fear of the community is that many shortcuts were taken to put more time into the development of the new paid content than into the map, which needs to be good to prove the community that the longer development times Wildcard decided to put into maps were actually put into the map. I mean, to be honest, Extinction in itself has not been an actually pretty map. Maybe the Sunken Forest or the Sanctuary area, yes, but the rest was very bland, but for a reason. We're on the destroyed Earth that was removed from the moon's influence and is now stuck in eternal daylight after all. But we do need more textures, a little more love when it comes to the world building and design. And we also will need someone to go back to Aberration and the Center and fix whatever was ruined by a rushed release. We did get some good news though that will probably not include a brown and dirty map, because Nikatus will be in charge of remaking Valguero for ARK Survival Ascended, as he has publicly stated already that he's not a big fan of the modification of ARK Survival Ascended, so we might see some bright colors and lush fauna on my favorite map at least. In the near future we expect at least 3 more story maps, Genesis 1 and 2, and the surprise lore map that was teased for over a year now, to which we haven't gotten any more info other than it will be announced at some point. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe next charity event. I also don't dare to mention ARK 2 as the development for the game seems to be so far away that at this point I don't feel like it's even worth losing another thought on it, especially because it was removed in many regions from the Steam store due to non-compliance with Steam's age restriction requirements. Oh well. But now, how about your opinion looking at what the game has to offer for the rest of the year? Yay or nay? Let me know in the comments.